start the third hour of this We Will Not Back Down Thursday on your afternoon show. I'm Keith Shirley. Thank you for making this your favorite radio and afternoon radio show. 423-8101, 1-800-304-1015, or 277-5155, the Old Town Spaghetti Store text line. We have a very special guest. I have not talked with this, maybe since he was in Nashville. Bill Hagerty. He has been United States Ambassador to Japan, gives him unique insight as to what's going on there and what's going on in China. We're going to talk with him about that. He was Commissioner for the Tennessee Department of Economic Community Development. He was in the cabinet of Governor Bill Haslam. He played key roles there in investments by Bridgestone and Nissan, as well as others. He has served on numerous committees. He was tapped by the President, Donald Trump, to serve on his 2016 presidential election, and, as I said, most recently was ambassador to Japan, United States ambassador to Japan, and now a 2020 U.S. Senate campaign. It is my pleasure to welcome to the afternoon show Bill Hagerty, ambassador, commissioner, secretary. I don't know what all to call you.
You just call me Bill. That'll be fine.
Well, you know, actually, the first time we met, that's exactly what you said to me then. You said then.
Please keep doing that. And it's delighted to be back with you and your listeners today.
Well, we're very honored and appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I know that you are being pulled in a lot of directions because of your insights into as serving as the ambassador to Japan and what you know about what goes on in the Asian countries and the Asian continent and their response to what's going on here. I know that you've been very closely tied to the White House. In fact, you are endorsed by the president. I kind of chuckled because he got out ahead of you on announcing your candidacy.
Well, Keith, it's great to have the complete and total endorsement of President Trump. We've been allied in so many ways over the past several years, and you know his announcing my campaign while I was still serving as his ambassador to Japan probably is a unique situation. I don't know if that's ever happened before, where the President of the United States announced your campaign before the candidate, him or herself. But that's the world that we're in today, and I'm very honored to have his complete and total endorsement. And at a time like this, it's even more important. I got called back up to the White House yesterday to talk about what we're doing with this response to the China virus and how we're going to manage the economic rebound from this. And it can't come it can't come too soon, but we've got a very careful set of things to navigate in terms of our health, our physical health, but also our economic health too. And there are a lot of folks focused on this. In fact, I went into the Deputy Chief of Staff's office yesterday, who manages all the president's top policy priorities. And the whiteboard there in his office is usually full of things, checks, tick marks, dates. It was clean. And I asked him, I said, what the first time I've ever seen it like this. He said, because we are 100% focused on dealing with this crisis.
Former United States Ambassador to Japan and serving as our Economic and Community Development Commissioner, Bill Hagerty, a candidate for the 2020 Senate race. So, Commissioner, Secretary, let me ask you this, Ambassador. You had the president's 100% trust and confidence. You would still be in some way serving the country. What made you want to step away from that service and come back and run for a seat to serve in the Senate for the United States representing Tennessee?
Well, Keith, I must say it was a very high honor to represent the United States as President Trump's representative to arguably our most important strategic ally. We have more men and women in the U.S. military stationed in Japan than any place else in the world right now. And the reason is Japan is a critical partner to us, because right there you've got North Korea, which was an incredibly hot issue at the time we came out there. You've got Russia, and you've got China. And China is the biggest issue by far. And the president sees it the same way I do. China is an existential threat to the United States. And I think that this virus that they've unleashed on the world is clear evidence of that. And the fact that our supply chains are so dependent on China is a vulnerability that the president saw from the very beginning, that I've seen, that we're working hard to try to change. That's what I was at the White House talking about yesterday, is how we get these critical supply chains back. So that was a great honor to work for our nation in that capacity. But it's very important to me that our nation be the same sort of land of opportunity that I grew up with. I mean, I'm a small town kid from Sumner County. I grew up raising cattle and pigs, and my father worked road construction. My mom was a school teacher. We grew up with that a lot, but I had a great opportunity to start a business career and be successful there. And for the past 3 years, work side by side with the President of the United States. That opportunity only exists in America. And for the past 3 years, I heard coming from Washington these cries from the Democrats to socialize everything, putting forward the Green New Deal, this Medicare for all, and this ceaseless attempt to impeach the president and undo the results of the 2016 election. And I just felt like it was time to come and stand up against the Democrats and stand for what we think is important, bringing our conservative values, our conservative Tennessee values to Washington, and standing with the president to deal with the Democrats and their never-ending effort to grab power. And they don't care about the United States people. Just look at what Nancy Pelosi did when she came in and shut down the progress on the CARES Act. She waited 5 days. She stopped all the progress there, let people dying in New York, people suffering all over the nation from this COVID-19. And she took 5 days to go in and try to negotiate all these Green New Deal features. I mean, come on. The Kennedy Center, that takes precedence over getting ventilators to people that are dying. That's what we're facing. That's why I decided to come back and stand with the president and stand up against this. If we lose control of the Senate, we're going to lose this nation.
Bill Hagerty is my guest. He's a candidate for the 2020 Senate race. That election coming up. I mean, we've got that. That's the seat that is currently held by Lamar Alexander, who sought not to seek re-election. Bill, you know the president well. You've sat in that inner circle. Do you think that? Well, first of all, from a Washington standpoint, what are your thoughts on the allegations that the impeachment process distracted and delayed what could have been attention paid to what was going on in China? And did China take advantage of that by hiding information, by withholding information regarding the severity of this virus?
There's no question that the distraction that the Democrats created with this impeachment farce, took the eye off the ball of the entire legislative body. President Trump saw it much earlier. I mean, he put the travel ban on China at the end of January. What was happening over in the Senate? What was happening in the House? They were pressing this whole impeachment farce. They weren't paying any attention to it at all. In fact, Joe Biden at that point called the president xenophobic. So, it's been bad enough. And now they're even talking about creating some sort of oversight panel. This is Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff creating some sort of oversight panel to go in and again look for, I'm sure, grounds for impeachment in terms of how the president has handled this coronavirus outbreak. They weren't there to support him at the time. They were there to call him a xenophobe, and the Schumer, I think, said his actions had come too soon. Now they're there to try to criticize the president and find another reason to go through yet another impeachment farce.
China's propaganda machine was in full force, in full force to lay this and deflect blame for this virus. You've seen that. How adept are they at this? How powerful is this machine over there?
Oh, they control their own media, and they control it with an iron fist. I've said this often, Keith, but the Chinese were far more interested in putting forward a public relations campaign than they were putting forward a public health campaign, and it came at the expense of the lives of their own people. But unfortunately, now it's broken outside their borders, and it's damaged the entire world economy, and it's caused death on a global basis, too. The Chinese have to be held accountable. But their propaganda machine is amazing. In fact, they even tried to blame this on the United States of America. They made an argument that the U.S. military brought this over there, which could not be anything further from the truth. So we need to stand up to it. They complain about us calling it the Wuhan virus, the Chinese virus, but that's exactly the source of this, and we need to hold them accountable.
Bill Hagerty, former ambassador to Japan and commissioner of economic development for our state, and also on the election committee for the President Trump in 2016. In fact, very closely served in a high cat seat in that. Bill, so our supply chain, one of the things that we've talked about and seen with this is our economic ties to China and our supply chain, our pharmaceuticals that come from there, for instance. Were we in a vulnerable spot by letting China have so much of that business? Are we vulnerable because we buy so much from them?
There's no question, Keith, that we're vulnerable, and this vulnerability has occurred over the past couple of decades. It's not something that happened overnight, but it's because we have not stood up to the fact that the Chinese won't hesitate to steal our intellectual property. They won't hesitate to subsidize industries and come in and compete against us under cost. They don't hesitate to damage the environment and operate with much less stringent rules than we do to come up with a cost advantage. But the result of this over the years are that critical pharmaceutical elements are manufactured there and only there. You want acetaminophen, Tylenol, it's made there. Lots of our antibiotics, the only place to get them is there in China. If you think about this drug that they've been talking about showing promise that's used to treat malaria, where does it come from? A lot of it comes from China, and they're talking about withholding the supply of that to allow America to drown in the sea of coronavirus. I can't believe the quotes that are coming out of China. But this is the perspective. They know that they have a strategic chokehold right now, and we've got to do our best to bring that capacity back and to bring that strength back to America.
I want to talk with you about how we're handling the coronavirus here in Tennessee and how it's going to affect us. But I want to ask you about the economic impact on our nation and very much so here in Tennessee. Last week, the president signed a $2.2 trillion check, a bill for a check for this country. And we're talking about another one. They're already talking about another stimulus package. What is this? How does the long-term picture look for the economy for our nation?
Well, we've already got $23 trillion worth of debt, and that was another one of the main reasons that my wife and I decided that we needed to come back. That's to stand up for our children, too. My wife and I are 100% pro-life. We care about our future. We care about the children of this nation, and to straddle them with $23 trillion of debt and growing, that's a real moral problem. At the same time, the president's got to get our economy back. This is going to expand that deficit, but I hope that we're able to turn the corner on the virus. And if we do, I hope this is enough of a bridge so that our economy snaps back quick. There's some that are projecting that the unemployment levels will go well beyond what we experienced in the Great Depression. My hope and prayer is that that is not the case. A lot of what the president has put in place is intended to inoculate that. I'm going to set aside the things that Nancy Pelosi added to it, but in terms of the focus of the bill, it's immediate, it's near term. Whether it's the bridge money that is going to every family, that's not going to grow jobs, but it'll help ease the pain. That's $1,200 a person for folks making less than $75,000 a year, or $2,400 for both parents and $500 per child. There's a loan program that's put in place for companies that are less than 500 employees. You can borrow up to $10 million there, and a portion of that will be forgiven to the extent that you maintain your payroll. So again, it's aimed at keeping people in their job in hopes that we rebound from this quickly and we can get back to normal as soon as possible. My goal is that we get beyond normal, that we come back stronger than we were before. Again, back to your point about the supply chain, that we're able to bring our economy back in a much stronger fashion. The whole global economy is suffering right now, and I think the United States, even given what we're suffering, we have the strongest economy in the world, and we have a chance to come back even stronger. That would be my goal. That's why I was in Washington yesterday working with the team there, and that would be my goal as the next U.S. Senator from Tennessee if I'm fortunate enough to be selected to do that.
If you do go to Washington as a senator representing Tennessee, on the economic side, you take a knowledge with it of the state's economic ties to our eastern neighbors, China and Japan, because you, better than anyone, knows how much of our economy in this state depends on that relationship.
It's critical. It's a critical relationship, and it's one that I strengthened significantly, not only when I served as Economic and Community Development Commissioner. At that point, when we came into office, Tennessee's unemployment rate was above the national average. People forget that now. And we had a major budget deficit that we had to go through and deal with at that time. We had over $1 billion budget deficit, a budget shortfall left over, and we had to address that quickly. I went through my department first because of my business background, and we reduced the employees by over 40%. Not that any of the employees that left were doing anything wrong, but we had to think hard about the necessity of what we're doing and whether the government should be doing it. And if the answer was no, we stopped doing it. We eliminated over 40% of the positions. We changed the organizational structure of the department and moved the team out into the field. And then what did I do? I got on a plane and I started flying around the world recruiting companies to come to Tennessee. And Tennessee became the number one state in the nation for jobs created through foreign investment on my watch. That's made a real difference. And today, if you look at Tennessee's unemployment performance up till this COVID virus hit, we've been number 1, 2, or 3 on every measure, whether it be GDP growth, low unemployment rates, wage growth. Tennessee is on a roll, and it's because we've got a great business climate, a very conservative legislature that has led that. We've got great leadership in Governor Lee, who's continued to move this forward with Commissioner Bob Rolfe and some of the people that you spoke with. I think Sammy Arnold was on the air with you earlier. That's a great team, and they continue to press Tennessee forward. I think Tennessee knows it better than any state in the nation because we've done it. And I think that our skill set is part of what the president is looking to attract these strategic industries to come back on shore. So that's going to be part of the focus there. While I was ambassador to Japan, Japan surpassed the UK and Canada to become the number 1 investor in the United States, and a lot of that came to Tennessee too. So I'm proud to have been able to help facilitate that also. We just need to see more of that type of investment come back onshore so that the goods that are produced here in America are made here in America.
Former commissioner, former ambassador, and now Senate candidate Bill Hagerty. Bill, have you had the opportunity to at least peruse some of the last stimulus package that was passed as it pertains to small business rescue? 90% of the business in Tennessee, look who I'm telling, 90% of the business is small business here, if you go with much of what the chambers define as that. Do you feel like there is enough protection in there, or is a small business in Tennessee going to need more?
Like, this was part of the message that I conveyed yesterday. If this comes to an end pretty quickly, I think there will be enough there, but it's on a first-come, first-served basis. And I would encourage all the listeners here that qualify, that are under 500 employees, that meet the qualifications to work with their SBA lender banks and to move on this quickly if they think they need to, because it's a finite pool of money. And it's something that if this drags on longer, it's something that will be, I think, strained pretty quickly too. I'm not ready to jump on the discussion about a fourth wave of stimulus, though. This is what Nancy Pelosi wants to do. And I think what they're trying to do is pass more of their Green New Deal through the system. We shouldn't have that conversation, in my view, until we see how this works out. There's a $10,000 very urgent relief package. That's a grant that people can reach out for right away if they're in a desperate need. Then there's the loan package that, again, you could borrow up to $10 million. That's a good-sized loan, and that can address a lot of needs for even a substantial middle-sized company, but only for a short period. So our hope is that as the weather warms, as the scientists get more and more involved, that we'll make a lot of progress. This morning I did a teletown hall with Dr. Jeff Balzer. He's the CEO and president of Vanderbilt University Medical System, and he's the dean of the Vanderbilt Medical School. And Dr. Balzer took us through some very promising efforts that they've got underway there in terms of new treatments for this COVID-19 virus. And we're able to make progress there. We're able to make progress on some of these other applications. Perhaps we will begin to turn the corner sooner than later. I'm very prayerful of that. My family and I are praying for success there, and we're praying for President Trump and Vice President Pence, too, in their leadership, and Governor Lee as well.
Despite the earnest efforts of Washington and our nation to rescue and restore small businesses, many of these small businesses are not going to be able to come back for various reasons. Some will choose not to. Some will not be able to put the employees together. Some will take the opportunity to do something else. With that in mind, West Tennessee particularly struggles with infrastructure development, rural broadband, and some of the other things that might allow for job training that our citizens here in West Tennessee and really across the state need to face the challenges of the 21st century. Will there be opportunities for that Washington can help?
You know, in Senator Marsha Blackburn, we have somebody that understands the rural broadband issue very, very well, and I look forward to partnering with her on that. I think by sending school children home, this has underscored the need across this state to have good connectivity. So I think we'll see a strong push for broadband, and certainly I want to be a strong voice for that along with Senator Blackburn. On jobs training, I'm very pleased with the work that Governor Lee is doing to really reach back to our our vocational training system. And there are tremendous jobs that are possible in the vocational arena. The focus that he's bringing, particularly to our rural areas, there'll be a lot of opportunity, I think, in West Tennessee to have these jobs training programs evolve in ways that really train workers for the jobs of tomorrow. I've been to visit some of the TCATs, the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology, the community colleges here. I've been out on the campaign trail before this virus hit. They're making great progress. We just need to keep going in that direction. I think we can be that can make Tennessee more competitive than other states by having these sort of job training programs in place.
Coming up on the bottom of the hour, Senator candidate Bill Hagerty, former ambassador, former commissioner of economic development, now Senate candidate, and his website, teamhagerty.com. One last question, sir. Both the president and the governor, Governor Lee, have been criticized as being slow to respond. The president's been criticized for being slow to respond to the virus, and Governor Lee has been criticized for not taking a strong enough stand to close businesses, and even up until the recent one still doesn't do that. Your response to those, sir?
Well, first, the slow to response, I think, is really improper and unfair. The president was on this. He was on offense from the very beginning. As I mentioned earlier, he banned travel from China in January, criticized for it, but that's what he did. I think Governor Lee is trying to navigate very carefully. He's got the economy to watch on one side, and he's got our health on the other. Both of them have to be navigated carefully, and we have a rural state. There are a lot of counties last week that I think over half the counties didn't even have the appearance of the virus yet. I think the governor's got to be careful not to act too early and elongate the economic damage, but to act soon enough so that we protect the health and well-being of Tennesseans. So I think Governor Lee is doing a good job. Again, it's a navigation. There's not any one clear answer, and I'm proud of the work that the president and the governor are both doing on our behalf.
Ambassador, Commissioner Bill Hagerty, thank you very much for taking this time, and thank you very much for not stipulating or having any stipulations or any boundaries on any questions, but opening up and allowing any questions to be asked. I want to give you the opportunity to have the last word and to let people know about your candidacy and what they can do.
Well, Keith, I think if Tennesseans want a Christian conservative who's a businessman that has the complete and total support and endorsement of President Trump, someone who's strong for the Constitution, someone who is pro-life, and someone who wants to stand up for the values of Tennesseans in the U.S. Senate, you've got the right person here in Bill Hagerty. And I hope you'll like us, Bill Hagerty TN, on all social media, and again, to mention our website, teamhagerty.com. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you again, Keith, and thanks to all your listeners.
I always enjoy visiting with you, sir. I always feel enlightened and get a little more perspective of your vision of our state, our nation. I invite you back again and hope we can arrange this again sometime.
I'll look forward to it, Keith. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.